what I think one of the number one things I see in this industry that is such a problem and that I just feel like we need to be talking about more and more and more, and that I find so interesting and is like nobody's fault. It's just how things have gone. And I think that we really just have to talk about it, which is that no one really wants to pay for coaching. And so, what I mean by that requires a ton of explanation. But what I mean by that is that often, like, we're fine to get coaching and we're like fine that coaching is part of it. But what most of us are craving in this industry is an actual playbook. We don't actually want the coaching, we want the playbook, right? And we're like, I mean, it's fine if the coaching comes with that, but give me the playbook, right? And the point is that it's not someone else's playbook that made that person successful, right? To use like an example, I feel like you could probably like buy the playbook from like the top football coach, you know, in the NFL. I personally have no idea who that is, but whoever he is, I'm sure that you could like buy his playbook and still never, ever, ever, ever be able to replicate it. Like you couldn't create that same level of success in his career with his players, with his team, right? Because it's not the same thing. Like you could buy the playbook and even have the same players and not get the same level of success out of those players, right? It's just so tempting in this industry to want to buy the playbook. And we are getting so much further and further away from even calling it the coaching industry. Like, I don't even think that's a thing right now in so many ways. Um, not this shit. I woke up to my house covered in dog shit one morning and we did play the game of which dog did it, right? Yeah, share. Sorry, lol. Yeah, it was. It's just you just can't miss the irony in that. There's no question about it. Tomorrow's gonna be a glorious turnaround. I can feel it. Thank you, Tristan. Always. I fell into that playbook trap so much, and then one day someone straight talked me and changed my life. Good. Yes, we need that. Hopefully, this will be a straight talk thing too. But again, we call it the coaching industry. And so many people are labeling themselves as coaches. And I don't even have a problem with that. Like, that's not even my like beef here. But we're doing so much less coaching and people are wanting to buy coaching so much less. And to be clear, this is not like a, oh my gosh, if you're a new coach just starting out, oh my God, people don't want to buy coaching. I'm not saying that. I really am not. But what I am saying is that I think we're forgetting what the magic is and why coaching was even a thing to begin with, why coaching is even so valuable, which is that it's because of what it does for you, of the transformation it creates for you, right? And I feel like, you know, what we tend to want to buy the least is that kind of stuff, to have to figure that out, right? And I think it's damaging to coaches, I think it's damaging to clients, and I think it's really damaging to a lot of people's results. Like, personally, what I really see shift things for people is when they realize it's like a lot more about how they feel and relate to things day to day and a lot less about the strategy. And when they work on how they feel and relate to things day to day, the strategy becomes so much simpler, right? And so an example I want to use here, like one of my clients, we actually had a call this morning, and we were talking about how different things are for her, how far she's come, how crazy, you know, things have changed for her. And what has changed so much for her is things like not making it mean so much about her, not making herself wrong all the time, doing so much work about how she relates to things in her business. So when something happens in her business, she can make quick adjustments. She can learn so much from it. Like, that is literally what happened this morning. She was like, hey, these 4 things are going really well. This one thing is like really feeling tough right now. What do we do about it? And then we were talking later about like, wow, like even being able to frame it like that, being able to look at it through that lens is so different for her, because before she would have come to me like, I'm fucking everything up. Things are so bad. What am I doing wrong? This is so hard. I just want to stop. Like, I'm not even going to finish this thing. Like, right? And now she's done so much work about how she relates to it and to herself that she can see that it's just like an opportunity to tweak this little part, do this thing in a different way. And it's like we can get to the strategy so quickly because we've done so much of the coaching, right? I want to see what y'all are saying here. Nasheen said, I think this is why you seem to be different. You don't share the playbook. You combine strategy, mindset, and execution aligned to the person from what I read. Yes, absolutely. We so badly want to purchase someone else's scaffolding and then wonder why it won't build our building. That's a great one, Tristan. Everyone says, yes, this. People are mistaking coaching with mentoring, and that's why they look for the playbook. For sure. And I think like that's why a lot of people feel pressured to sell the playbook too. And so like that's a whole problem as well. Like it's not just like I think buyers are driving what's happening in our industry, right? And buyers are getting confused and think they just want the playbook and think that that will get them all the results because it is wildly uncomfortable to not have a playbook. I mean, that's like literally the thing about entrepreneurship that's like the hardest and most uncomfortable is not having a playbook. And so our like desire is that we want that so fucking bad that we jump from thing to thing to thing chasing that, and we again stop actually doing coaching. We stop the whole point of like a lot of this space, a lot of this industry. It's like not really like about what it's about sometimes. And I think actually it's super funny now. Like I didn't really plan this, but it works out. How I was saying earlier, like today is an absolute fucking shit show for me. And like the point I want to make around that as it relates to this is, and I'm still a fantastic coach and nothing about that changes how good of a coach I am. However, if you like, if I'm trying to put on this front that like everything's great for me, I know all, I'm perfect, buy my playbook, and meanwhile, like having a shit show day, like we're missing the point, which is like, I'm trying to what, like personify perfection. So then you want to buy the playbook from me? Like, no. What? You know what I mean? Like, don't buy it from me because you think I have all my shit together. Like, clearly I do not, right? I do a good job, but like, I certainly don't have all my shit together. Buy it from me because you know I'm a great coach who can help you move forward because you know I know a lot about business and I can help you apply that to you. Don't buy it from me because you think I have the playbook to perfection. I don't. Like, you're looking in the wrong place. And quite honestly, you would be looking in the wrong place with anyone. Like, this whole thing where we put people on pedestals and then we think that, you know, they're perfect and if we just buy their playbook that we'll be perfect too is like the most flawed and fucked up thing ever, right? Yeah, totally. Mistaken coaching. Exactly. So that's really just what I kind of want to emphasize, but I also want to emphasize that like the buyers drive the market, right? So when we're the ones kind of wanting that, we have to realize that the market is going to adjust to that. And so I really want to encourage you that if like you're feeling stuck in your business, be a conscious buyer and think about like, is it possible for me to really value the art of coaching and what that can do for me? I'm not saying there's not mentorship around that. I mean, I sell products and programs. Like, I'm not saying there's none of that, but I'm just saying like, let's keep like what's important at the heart of it, which is like how it impacts you, right? How you're actually going to relate to that product, how you're actually going to relate to that, training, right? And so much of that is going to be what dictates how useful that is to you. So I'm not saying like, let's take a program off the table or let's take a course off the table, but I am saying that like coaching is what will help you relate to, use that, utilize it, move forward with it so much better, so much faster, so much more effectively. And so in making buying decisions, I really encourage you to think about what is the coaching aspect of this? How will I get coaching around this? How will I have support around how I relate to this, right? Michelle said, I definitely feel like people are starting to look for more authenticity in their connection, but for a long time, it really does feel like it was about selling something that someone was lacking rather than uplifting the natural gifts that are already there. Love that, Michelle. Shari says, I'm not really relating to wanting a playbook, but wonder if it comes up as a different concept for me instead. Like I think thinking someone else might be able to do something I can't. Shari, I so appreciate you saying that. I just really do. Because yes, that's totally it, right? And I was actually having that conversation with another client today, how, you know, part of the playbook is thinking that someone else really is like so much better at something or knows something so much better than us, or just has their, again, like to the example of today, has their shit together so much more than us, and we kind of pedestal that. And it doesn't mean you don't ever delegate, but it's not delegation because like you think you suck at something or like you think someone must know way better. It's like delegation because delegation is useful for scaling and it makes sense and it's helpful. And I'm not saying there's not experts, right? But again, it's like this idea that like it's almost like abdication of power in a way, right? Where it's like, ooh, let me give this power to the playbook. Let me give this power to someone else who must know better. Let me give this power to this coach who seems like they have it all together, instead of like, let me hire someone that's going to reflect my power to me. Let me hire someone that's going to help return my power to me. Let me hire someone that will make me feel more powerful as I go through this program, as I go through this whatever training. Does that make sense? One thing that I found frustrating in the online coaching space is the idea that you need a coach to get to your next level. The way I see it is you already have everything you need inside you, but it might feel good to have support clearing the noise so you can tune into that. Yep. I'd be curious to know how you think about the role of coaching and benefits. Totally. I agree with you, Shari. Like, I do not subscribe to the always have a coach mentality at all. I think the reason I don't subscribe to that mentality is for the same reason you're saying, which is like because I think it feels like a trap and is disempowering, versus like a lot of my clients do have me as a coach for a really long time. Not because they have to though, right? Because like they would do fine still, but because it feels really fucking good and juicy and like amazing to have that support. And they don't have to, like deprive themselves of that either. So I think that it's really that, like, if it feels amazing to have that support and reflection and that space to process and all of that, like, by all means continue to have a coach. If you are hiring a coach because you think like you have to have a coach, again, it's like the disempowerment, right? Like, that is such a thing here. Patricia says that's why one-on-one coaching is so important, because you can help them create their own results. Exactly. Activate our own power. Exactly. Michelle says, I would love to see this industry doing more empowerment and more self-trust work, because I've definitely come across clients that do better one-on-one and clients that do better in group settings. It's really about connecting people with the right things and not seeing it as a one size fits all. Totally. And I also think, again, we can have specialization. Like, I can like specialize in one-on-one and someone else can specialize in group, and then we can empower the human to decide which one is better for them. But like, again, it almost becomes like a competition of like who seems like they have their shit together more, and then I'll hire them. Or, who am I putting on a pedestal, or who's telling me they have the best playbook? And I think we're just getting so wildly far away from like, who's just actually gonna really be a great coach and like reflect me to me, kind of reflect my power back to me, like Shari was saying, clear the noise, that kind of stuff. I think that, it's important for someone in my position in this industry to say these things, because I think like I'm kind of in a position where it would be too easy in some ways to kind of be like, well, like, I have the playbook. I got my shit together. Look at all these results I get my clients. I know it all. But I don't. Like, but what I do know is I'm really good at coaching. I am positive about that. And what I do know is when we do that and help people to see how they relate to their strategy, what they're bringing to the table, what's holding them back, what reflection they need, what support they need, how it applies to them, that's when results really, really happen. It's not because there's one playbook. In fact, like, sometimes I have to like work at how do I want to say, like, I I have to work at creating things that like are more step by step, because like my tendency is to kind of be like, it doesn't matter. Like what matters is what's going on for you. Because it's true. And again, like I think that sometimes those things are helpful. Like I really find that like things like my content planning party or whatever are like really, really useful, because they show people that like either they just had that little knowledge gap, or they have the knowledge and now they really need the coaching about how they relate to it. Like if you do all that and you're still, taking 2 hours to write one post, or, feeling super shitty about your content or whatever, then it just tells you like this is a coaching like solution. This is not like a knowledge gap solution. And again, what I think we're selling so much in this industry is knowledge. And what I have found to be true over a very long time doing this, and over, the years I was in business and getting my MBA and all of that before this, is that business is relatively simple. Like if you were on any of the Million Her forums, I feel like that is the like biggest takeaway most people have, is that it can be pretty simple and it can be pretty easy. Like a lot of the strategy is relatively simple and relatively easy, but we spend so much time complicating it and selling the playbook, and very little time going, hey, like the strategy piece like is pretty simple once you change how you relate to it, once you look at what you're bringing to the table, once you process everything that's coming up for you, once you look at it from your unique life and perspective and experience and all of those things. But I just think we have to stop pretending, or kind of, like furthering the idea that if you just do it in the way so and so did who got really successful, that path is clear. I just like literally just nothing about that makes sense to me. And even like for so many of my clients, like I can see like the exact path someone took, right? Like you guys know I'm like very involved in my clients' businesses. Like I can know all of the 52 steps they took to make $1 million, and I still wouldn't recommend 38 of those to someone else, because it depends. Like it depends on them. It depends what works for them, right? And I just really think that is important to hear, because even like seeing so much behind the scenes and knowing so much of that, I'm really not recommending the same steps. I'm not even always recommending. Like I am helping coach them to figure out what works the best for them, right? Like again, I just think that we have to bring it back to the art of coaching if we're going to be in the coaching industry sometimes. And I don't think it's bad that there are courses and knowledge and information and teaching out there at all. I think it's amazing. However, when that kind of, again, gets placed on the pedestal, I think we're missing this huge opportunity, right? Shari says, if you're comfortable answering this, I wonder how you handle knowing that your coaching is so transformative, but knowing that you can only work with a limited number of one-on-one people. How do you think about all the other people who want to work with you, that feel confident that you can help, but also just trusting that your boundaries and capacity is important, and totally get it if that doesn't feel good to answer here? Oh yeah, totally feels good to answer. I'm just processing. We'll see if I cry. Yeah, I think that I feel like I know that one of the reasons I'm a good coach is because I show up like in a certain energy and from a certain place, if that makes sense. And so I know that like I wouldn't be able to be as good of a coach if I was showing up like super drained, if I was showing up like super, super depleted. Like I kind of know what works for me as a coach, if that makes sense. And it's like when I'm like in a certain headspace, when I'm trying to think of how I say this, like when I'm able to kind of like not shut my own stuff off in terms of like a negative way, but when I can just be so fully present with the other person, and that takes energy. And so basically what I'm saying is I feel like it's relatively easy for me to set that boundary because I know what it requires to show up in a really good space for coaching. And I know that if I flex my boundaries on a lot of that it wouldn't happen in the same way, so I can kind of see how one impacts the other. But honestly, it fucking sucks. Like, part of the reason I'm gonna cry, like, part of the reason I had like such a shit day today is because today we opened you guys, I can't help it. Sorry, today we opened discovery calls for the wait list, and like we can't take everybody, and like just getting some of your emails and stuff, like it really does suck. But like, I'm not saying don't email me, of course email me, but I'm just saying like it is like an emotional process to be like, yeah, like we're like, especially it sucks when I feel like we're like almost like saying no, or it feels like we're picking or anything like that. Like, I hate all that shit. Hate. So yeah, that was like, it's not hard in the sense that I feel like we're doing something wrong. It's hard in the sense that I can see the trade-off and I still know which one I need to make. Does that make sense? Yeah, I think that's it. Like, conceptually, it's not hard. But again, this is the perfect example of why coaching is so fucking important. Because conceptually, I know I'm doing the right thing. Conceptually, it makes perfect sense. Mentally, I feel so good and sure and certain about that. And I'm still human. I still have emotions. I still need reflection. I still need to process this. I still have to process the humanness of doing the right strategy. Does that make sense? Oh, you guys are so sweet. Thank you. Yeah, still have to process like the humanness of doing the right strategy. Braylon said that's a scalability issue. The business model isn't leveraged. Yeah, I mean, you know, our business model is leveraged in the sense that we do revenue share. So I feel like it's definitely like a super leveraged model. However, and again, relevant is, this is where I feel like we get away from coaching in this space too, which is that we're making the only thing matter scalability as well, right? And I'm not saying it doesn't matter to scale your business. I feel like I spend most of my day working with clients on scaling their businesses. And like, I really just think that conversation even needs to change in our industry, is that like, that's the only thing that matters. Like, is it though? Like, it's not the only thing that matters in my opinion. Like, what matters is like, are we actually like, you know, really feeling good in our business? Are we feeling integrity? I mean, the whole Million Her thing, you know, that I just did was really based on like, are we actually having businesses that feel really amazing to us? And so, you know, I really think that like, permission to like do what you want to do because it feels really good and not because it's the most scalable thing either. And that's again where coaching can come into play as well. Where like, I hope that, you know, we have coaches that are saying that to people and coaching them on like what actually fits them best, and you know, what makes them the happiest and all of those things, because like, that's an important fucking question. And like, the industry again just gets so built up in a way that's like, scalability is the only thing that matters, and like, scalability is part of something that matters. And like, to have a great business, it doesn't have to be the most scalable either. Right? Process the humanness of doing the right strategy. This. Oh, I love you, Ash. Thank you. Of course, you came on right when I was crying. Perfect timing, right? Shari says, oh my fucking gosh, yes. Jen says, yes, so many coaches are focused on scaling, and I'm over here like, hey, I just want my first one-on-one client. Yes, Jen, I think that's so good. Scaling is the goal. Yeah, for sure. If I end up scaling a business I don't love, then I am trapped back in a 9-to-5 grind of my own making. Exactly. It just makes no sense to me. And like, you know, I joke about this a lot, but like, when I had decided like, okay, like, I'm going to commit to one-on-one before I had decided what the revenue model was, or had the idea for the revenue model, I was like, okay, so like, if I just make whatever, $250K forever in my business, like, could that be okay? And here's the fact part, and I want to point this out. In the coaching industry, I would be like a less desirable coach to a certain extent, if I just said that. Like if I was like, hey y'all, like I'm a really amazing coach. I fucking kick ass at what I do, but I'm probably just gonna make 250K, no plans for scaling for now, for the foreseeable future. Like who wants to hire me? Like, isn't it interesting that that would be like less desirable seeming as a business coach? Can we talk about how little that makes sense? If I picked the thing that felt best to me, that felt most aligned, if I felt like I'm making amazing income and I'm gonna rock that out, and now I'm here to like use my gift and skill of coaching to help all of you, like what would be wrong with that? What would be wrong with that is that we're not selling coaching in this industry. Really, we're again trying to like build as fast as we can and then solve the playbook to that. And we're missing all of the amazingness in the middle, right? Ash said, right. Yeah, of course you did. You just knew. You knew I needed your energy there. But it's so true. So I think that that's just really important to say, and really important to give space to, and really important to give permission around. But again, like coaching really is the thing that helps you put all this other information into play and into practice. It's why, so many people can buy all of the courses and not get further. It's not because the courses suck, right? That drives me nuts too, where it's like, I'm sure there are courses that suck, don't get me wrong, but it's like all pitted against each other, where it's like, then we're talking about how much courses suck in our industry and all of that. The course completion rate isn't low because courses suck. The course completion rate is low because everyone needs coaching. You know what I mean? Right? Michelle says, yes, that's a real dumb thing about the coaching industry and all jobs. I also find that my 9-to-5 really only values the people that want to move up. Oh, interesting, but not everyone wants to be the boss. It's about finding the role that really feels good to you. Otherwise, it's soul sucking. That's interesting, Michelle. That's a very good observation. Patricia says, so true. But they are the only ones growing and scaling, but with one-on-one, that's when the ideal client gets the results. Right. And again, I think that this is what's so fascinating about it, is that, again, like the course model isn't broken per se, although I do think, like our completion rates are really low. The coaching model isn't wrong, but it gets like, less sexy than just getting the playbook. And so if we can start having conversations that bring both of those together, or if we can start looking at like, oh gosh, like the number one problem is that like I really probably need both. I need some simple strategy that I can get and understand, and I really need the coaching around that. And so if I've done a lot of courses that I haven't completed, it's probably a flashing sign that what I really need is coaching, and being willing to invest and buy just coaching, like pure coaching to a certain extent, instead of feeling like I would only buy it if someone had achieved XYZ result, because then they can tell me how to do it, kind of thing, right? Shari says 100%. I find this true with income levels too. Like genuinely have no current desire to scale my business to 1 million and happy. Oh, and my happy number is multi 6 figures, but it's definitely isn't what's being sold right now is the made it number. So really staying in my lane and truth around that. That's so good, Shari. Right, exactly, Patricia, because then it's like, okay, then how do I apply it to me? 100%. The course completion rate, courses equal scaffolding. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, our job is to know and trust what's right for us and permission for it to always change. Exactly, Michelle, but there's no perfect life. 8K, the playbook. Also, can we talk about how the target keeps changing every year? 1 year it's courses, next it's memberships, then it's evergreen 10K months, 6 figures. Oh wait, 1 million. Oh wait, 8 figures. Like, how about let's find our own happiness numbers? Totally. One of my clients has something that she calls a freedom number, and I really like that. But yeah, like I think that you're spot on, Shari, where it's like there always is like something else you have to like have or be doing, and we just lose the art that is coaching, or even the art that is teaching, because we're trying so hard to like have results to prove that we're a good teacher, that even gets lost. And so I really think like the number one problem is definitely like we're selling the playbook and not coaching. But I also think the other problem is that we're not looking at like the skill we're looking at just the person's results. And don't get me wrong, it is relevant, right? I harp on my clients to share their results because like if that's what you're selling, then to an extent, of course it makes sense to talk about your results. But I think that we need to talk about them in terms of like, and this is what makes me really happy, and this is what feels really good to me, and I really love my business model, and all of those kind of things too, right? But again, the market drives what people are selling. And I can tell you for sure that if one of my clients says they made 100K versus if they say they're really happy in their business, I can tell you for sure which one's going to get them more sales, right? And that's okay. Like, again, not like this is not like a hate on it thing. This is how our lizard brains work. We want more money and we're going to hire people who are talking about that. But I feel like we really, really need to be contributing to the conversation in this space of like how to utilize coaching, how to call it the coaching industry and actually bring it back to how valuable coaching itself is, right? Yeah, Michelle says she has to tune out so much of it because it gets overwhelming and makes you start to doubt yourself. Exactly. And here's the crazy part too. Michelle, I'm going to use you as an example here. Mostly because I can. But, Michelle is totally not a business coach at all, right? She has a business, but she's not a business coach, right? And notice how even she feels all this pressure, right? She does IVF coaching, like not even in the same like arena, right? Like her clients could be business owners, but that's not a thing. So my point in saying that is like, notice how even like it gets put like, then the pressure gets put on everyone that they should be like making a certain amount and scaling in a certain way, improving their business and all this stuff. And it's like her skill set and her ability to serve her clients on the infertility journey has literally jack shit nothing to do with like how many clients she's signed in her business, right? And again, it doesn't mean she wouldn't want to, but like when it becomes this measuring stick that somehow dictates like how good of a coach or how good of a service you're going to be able to provide to your clients, that is when it gets so disempowering and so just like we've lost the plot. Like that's what I feel like saying here. We have lost the plot, right? I think it's so true. Shari says, yes, a lot of content gets lost in those numbers. One of the biggest pieces of context I've noticed is sales versus profit, which just feeds back into how that amount of money feels versus sounds. I love that, Shari. I totally agree. It's such an interesting thing. Patricia says, I think it's about educating the audience the difference. I agree with that a lot, Patricia. That is like literally why I'm here today and why I want to talk about this, because I think we're just not doing enough education on that. Michelle says, people also think 100K equals happiness. You got to be happy first, otherwise no magic happiness comes. It's the same with infertility and pregnancy. Just because you get pregnant doesn't mean happiness immediately follows. That's a beautiful reminder, Michelle. It really is. And just like your people need a coach on their journey to that, to find their own happiness in the process, same in business. We need that coaching, that reflection, like that support. It is so valuable and so important to us. And it is what makes all of the other stuff simple and easy. Like I feel like so many of my clients preach about how business is easy, right? And then people come to me thinking that I have like some magic secret for making business easy. And like I don't, but I guess I kind of do, which is like, get your own coaching, like do coaching, like actually look at yourself and how you are relating to these things, and then business feels easier, right? It's not because I'm giving them all some magic strategy. Like again, they all have pretty different strategies. I would say like same baseline foundation, simplicity, but in terms of like practical application and execution, like different. But it's just how it feels, right? Yeah. Jen said there's an insane amount of pressure to have a specific niche and client avatar, as well as the transformation you provide. And as a yoga teacher and life coach, I've battled with this for a long time. Absolutely. And I will tell you, Jen, this is always like a fine line I'm playing with my clients too. We're like, I know what sells the best and I want them to be happy. And so we're always doing that dance, right? I think it's true that like a really narrowed in niche sometimes does sell a lot better. And if that feels terrible to you, it won't, right? And again, that's where like coaching itself comes in, right? Because someone needs to ask those right questions. Thank you. That's why I went into one-on-one coaching with this combo. Just highlights how I need to keep talking about it more directly. Patricia, exactly. Like I feel like I'm just feeling like this like kind of responsibility to talk about this a little bit more in our space, I think. Because I feel like again we've lost the plot a little bit and like coming back to this idea that like coaching is so useful. And I don't even just mean one-on-one, by the way, you guys. Like obviously that's my chosen path. But like group coaching is super useful. Coaching in a mastermind. I had my mastermind call this morning. It was amazing, and it feels like that's what we're doing. We're all coaching and supporting one another. But coaching, i.e., someone being a mirror for you, someone being a reflection to you, someone holding the truth that you have the answers inside of you, and sometimes we just need someone to help us find that, holding the truth that sometimes it's not so much about the thing, but how we're relating to the thing, all of that. That is the magic. Shari says this has come up for some of my clients too, and I think this is really important. Yep, totally. Michelle says, oh man, that results combo could be a whole other rabbit hole. My husband isn't even in this space, and he has internalized the narrative that the only way to be successful, aka to make money in this industry, is to be a business coach. Right. Michelle, I'm so sorry, but I totally get that, right? It is such a, like you said, internalized narrative, but it's also because that's where the playbook is coming in, right? But like, it both sides make sense. Like it makes sense why someone is selling a playbook because the market wants that, and it makes sense why the market wants that because it's so much fucking easier, right? Like, isn't it? I mean, I just get it so much. Like, isn't it so much? Like, this is actually something I used to do to myself. So it makes sense. But like, I would like buy. This is almost embarrassing, but whatever. I've already cried on here. I've already told you about my dog shitting. I think we're fine. We're friends. But I would buy like all these meal plans, right? Like if you had a meal plan to sell, I would give you money kind of situation. And I would think, well, if someone just gave me the meal plan, I would obviously follow it. No. Did I ever follow one? I don't know. I mean, I probably maxed out at 5 days. Like, I don't know if I got to 5 days, I would be pretty impressed with myself. I don't particularly remember a 5th day situation, but like if I had to guess, right? Around there. And I really thought that was the thing. And I thought like if I just found someone that had the right meal plan, like I don't even know what I thought. Like that if somebody just had the meal plan where like I could eat Chick-fil-A 3 times a day and lose weight, then like obviously everything in my life would be better. And then, you buy enough of them to realize that like you're the common denominator and that like the problem is not at all, in fact, the fucking meal plan. And so like I just so get why the market drives that. I drove that too because it's so much more comfortable than going, I probably have some fucked up relationship stuff to food that I probably need to work through here. Like that's not fun at all. That doesn't feel fast. It doesn't feel exciting. It doesn't feel easy. However, it is long-term sustainable is what changes things. And when I actually did that work, everything changed for me. You know what I mean? And so I think it's really the same thing here. Like it makes sense why we're selling that. It makes sense why that's being, really like sold well in the market. And let's keep talking about it. Let's talk about how sometimes the meal plan or the playbook just shows us what we have to work on, right? Jen says, right, I don't think it's talked about enough. My goal is to help women come back home to themselves, to meditate for the love of meditating, to do yoga for the love of movement, not for some specific result. Beautiful, Jen. Michelle says, I do to some extent think people need a carrot to bring them into a bigger transformation because at the end of the day, my clients come for infertility, IVF, support, but really the transformation has nothing to do with that because they're learning self-trust and to create their own joy and find happiness where they are in themselves rather than looking for it outside. Totally. This is me decluttering books and courses. Yeah. Which is exactly, I was like, dang, I actually have to do the work here. LOL, I need one-on-one. Right. Right. And, Michelle and Jen, I think you're having an important conversation there too, where there's like such a fine line. And I don't always have the perfect answer to that. But I do think that, like, yes, sometimes to make that like big investment or do that thing, we do need that like carrot at the end. That's something I teach and talk about in value centered sales a lot, which is like, you know, you can do whatever work feels good to you, but sometimes having that endpoint that our like lizard brains really relate to is so valuable to make the sale. But again, that's like such a fine line, because it's like, yes, we want to be strategic and we want to figure out how that relates to us, right? And how that actually helps us feel good and all of those kind of things. And I do believe there's always like a way to blend those two. Jen says, I bought all the sales, marketing, copy, and niche courses, and yet here I am still trying to figure it all out. Jen, thank you. Appreciate you for being such a great example of that. And exactly that. It's like, it's so tempting. I've done all the courses, I've done all the things, and yet there's this piece of me that just can't lock into that. And that's where coaching becomes the thing. And that's the conversation we have to have, right? Hi, Jen. Yes, lizard brain. Exactly. That's what I always call mine, my lizard brain. Okay, so really that's what I want to talk about today. Apparently I wanted to cry. I wanted to tell you about my shitty day. I wanted to tell you about dog shit. I wanted to tell you about how I would buy meal plans, like all the things. But I really do I just want to have this conversation way more in this space. I want to continue to bring it back to why coaching is so valuable, so important, and why, again, courses and stuff are too, but until we're putting them together in a more effective way, until we're overlapping, information with personalized application, I think we're just missing the mark. And so I don't think anyone's wrong here. I think we're all trying to do our best, but I do think that it's time to just engage in this conversation in a new way. So I hope this helped. I love you guys. I hope this was also permission and a reminder that, like, you can be a shit show and still be an amazing coach, an amazing service provider, give your clients amazing results. You can have things in your business that make you cry your eyes out just thinking about them, and they can still be the right choice. And so I hope this was just like a heaping dose of permission as well. So I love you guys, and I hope you have a beautiful week. Bye, y'all.